Hello friends! I'm going to demonstrate how to tell the story using flannel board pieces. What I do is I always put them in order in a nice big pile, and depending on my audience, sometimes I will hide them in my lap so none of the kids will be tempted to come up and grab them. And I like to use my lap board the best because you have the most control. If the children start coming up and trying to grab things, you can always just take them down and hide them in your lap, and they'll pretty much stop. Or, you know, you can always flip it over if it's distracting, and or just put it behind you. So this is my favorite kind of flannel board. The easel sometimes is a little more distracting and hard to control. So I like to use this, and a lot of the times I will have flannel pieces for each child to have, and I pass that out, and when I tell the story they come up when it's their turn to, you know, bring it up, so every child learns to wait their turn. But for this particular one, I'm just going to tell the story using flannel pieces instead of using a book. So it's a little bit different experience. So this story is called Good Night Gorilla, and usually if I was starting the story, I would have the beginning of the story already set up on my board, or you can, as you're greeting the children, sort of you know, talk to them as you set up the board. So here we go. This story is called Good Night Gorilla, and this is my friend Zookeeper Joe. Can you say hi, Zookeeper Joe? Great. You can see he looks very important, right? He's a very serious looking man, and he's got a nice flashlight and a hat and a little badge, and this means that he's in charge of the zoo, and he has to make sure all the animals are ready for bedtime, and they're all in their cages. So he goes over to Gorilla and he says, "Good night, Gorilla." And as he's walking by Gorilla's cage, he is very sneaky gorilla, and he snags the keys right off of Zookeeper Joe's belt. So, as Zookeeper Joe walks by, Gorilla takes his keys and he opens up his own cage door. Can you help me do that? Great, let's open it up. And before he knows it, Gorilla is out of his cage, and his little friend Mouse is carrying a little banana. So Gorilla quietly tiptoes over to the next cage. This one's a big cage. This has a really big animal in it. You guessed it, right? Elephant. And Zookeeper Joe says, "Good night, Elephant." And Gorilla goes over and he unlocks Elephant's cage, and he lets Elephant out. So now Gorilla says, "Shh." Elephant and Gorilla quietly tiptoe behind Zookeeper Joe. They go to the next cage. Oh yes, this is a fierce animal. They go to Lion's cage, and Zookeeper Joe says, "Good night, Lion." And Gorilla quietly goes over and he unlocks Lion's cage, and he opens the door and he lets Lion out. So now Lion and Elephant and Gorilla are quietly tiptoeing behind Zookeeper Joe. Next they go to a really tall cage. Oh yes, I heard giraffe. Nice guessing. They go over to Giraffe's cage, and Zookeeper Joe says, "Good night, Giraffe." And Gorilla goes over and he quietly unlocks Giraffe's cage, opens up the door, and lets Giraffe out of his cage. So now Giraffe and Lion and Elephant and Gorilla are quietly tiptoeing behind Zookeeper Joe. Next, they go over to a really silly animal's cage. He kind of laughs like this. Ha 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 ha. Can you do that? Nice. Does anybody know what kind of animal it is? Hyena. And Zookeeper Joe says, "Good night, Hyena." And Gorilla quietly goes over and he unlocks and he opens up the door and he lets hyena out of his cage. So now, hyena and giraffe and lion and elephant and gorilla are quietly tiptoeing behind Zookeeper Joe. So there's one more cage they have to check on. Zookeeper Joe goes over to Armadillo and he says, "Good night, Armadillo." And Gorilla goes over and he quietly unlocks the cage and he opens up the door and he lets Armadillo out of his cage. So now we have Mouse with the banana, and Armadillo, and hyena, and giraffe, and lion, and elephant, and gorilla quietly tiptoeing behind Zookeeper Joe. So Zookeeper Joe, he goes into his house. He unlocks the door, he opens it up, and they're gonna go up the stairs. So can you help me go up the stairs like this? Great. And what does Zookeeper Joe have to do when he gets ready for bed? Oh, brush his teeth. All right, let's brush our teeth. What else does he do? Oh, brush his hair. Sure, we could brush our hair. What else? Oh, put on your pajamas. Great. All right, let's put on our pajamas. Are we ready? Good. So, here is Mrs. Zookeeper. Looks like she's already sleeping. So, Zookeeper Joe quietly gets into bed. And he gets all snuggly. And he says, "Good night, honey." And guess who else says goodnight? Oh boy. Armadillo says goodnight. Mouse says goodnight. Hyena says goodnight. Giraffe says goodnight. Lion says goodnight. Elephant says goodnight. And gorilla says goodnight. So Mrs. Zookeeper wakes up. She shuts the light on, right? She turns the light on. And she says, "Oh dear. Oh, animals, I have to get you back into your cages so you can go to bed too." So she gets out of bed and she walks all of the animals back. So first we have to put hyena back in his cage and say, "Good night, hyena." We'll put, oh, that was Armadillo, right? We'll put Armadillo back in his cage and say, "Good night, Armadillo." And we'll put hyena back in his cage and we'll say, "Good night, hyena." And we'll put giraffe back into his really tall cage. And we'll say, "Good night, giraffe." And then we'll put lion back into his fierce cage and say, "Good night, lion." And we'll put elephant back into his really big cage. And we'll say, "Good night, elephant." And then finally we'll put gorilla back into his cage. And we'll make sure his friend Mouse and his yummy snack for later, banana, get back into his cage. And we'll say, "Good night, gorilla." And Mrs. Zookeeper is finally going to get some rest. So we'll say, "Good night," and we'll blow a little kiss. The end.